tape number 2 interview with Mrs. Zigmond, October 13, 1995, Cheyenne, Wyoming, interviewer Maximilian Lerner.
Thank you.
Were you physically abused in either of those 2 camps? Were you beaten at any time?
No. But when I saw people beaten when they did not move fast enough around me, so I tried to move as fast as I could to keep from getting beaten.
Now, when you were liberated by the British, how did you feel? Were you sick?
I was very sick. I was so sick I didn't know what day it was.
What happened then?
But the British came in, and we hadn't had food they hadn't fed us for a week prior to liberation. And so when the British came in, they were trying to be very kind, and they gave us spaghetti in little cans. Well, our stomachs could not handle it. I got a terrible case of diarrhea. I could not even move. I went into a place where they were like a storage area where they had the clothes, these striped clothes, mountains and mountains of striped clothes. I was looking for something clean to wear. When I got in there, I sat down and I could not even move. The water was just flowing out of me. It was terrible. I sat there for several days. I don't even remember how long. I saw a former neighbor from our hometown who met with my brother in Czechoslovakia. He said to him, "I saw your sister, but she could not survive. She had to have died. I was that bad." I didn't know what day it was. At that point, I didn't even care anymore.
What did the British do for you?
The British put me in a hospital till I was well enough to maneuver.
That was in Bergen-Belsen or nearby?
In Bergen-Belsen, and then they put me in with some other girls into an apartment house, gave us a room. There were 5 of us staying in that room. And I stayed there till I got sick again. And they put me in the hospital again and nursed me back to health to the point where I could function, and put me later in another apartment house. Then I went to see, I knew there was a cousin in a hospital, in a different hospital, and I went to see her. And at that point, they were getting ready to move her to Sweden. And she claimed me as my sister. And they just took me and my cousin to Sweden. They put us on the boat.
Where in Sweden? To Malmö?
To Malmö. There I was. They examined everyone. After the examination, they discovered that I had TB. And they put me into a hospital where I was for about a month. And from there into a sanatorium
in Malmö,
in Karlstad. And there I was a couple of months. And then they sent us to for recuperation, like I don't know what you call it, a place where they just, it was near the mountains, Västerås, where the air was very fresh and they gave us good food, and
the Swedes were good to you.
The Swedes were wonderful. They are very warm, loving people. They nursed me to health. They put me on my feet. I'll never forget them as long as I live. I owe them a lot. And I was in that recuperating place for about 6 months. And then I went to work as a third cook in a hotel.
In Malmö?
In Västerås. I worked there for about a year. At one point, I got very sick again, and they sent me away to recuperate for a month. And that was before my aunt and uncle brought me out to America.
Now, what happened to your mother and your brother?
My brother wound up in Czechoslovakia.
And your mother?
And my mother died. My mother and my sister was taken to Auschwitz, and there they perished.
Do you know when that happened?
It was, my mother was taken in, there was a transport from Budapest to Auschwitz around December
1944.
1944, and my mother must have perished right at that time. My sister, I understood from her former husband, which was my former brother-in-law, because he married afterward, after the war, remarried. But he told me that she lived about 2 weeks before the English came in. She was made to dig her own grave with a bunch of other people, then shot to death.
Where was that?
and that was,
in Bergen-Belsen?
no, it was a place I don't remember. I've got it in my address book.
Now you went to America from Sweden?
I went from Sweden to America.
You had family in America?
My uncle was here. My aunt was here. And my name appeared on a bulletin board. Jewish organizations were listing survivors. And they saw my name. And they contacted me.
And they brought you here?
And they brought me here.
And that you arrived in the United States when?
On June 7, 1947.
And you stayed with your aunt and uncle?
I stayed with my aunt and uncle.
In New York?
In New Jersey. Jersey City, New Jersey. And I was with them till I learned a little English. I really concentrated on learning the language. My aunt would go to the Catskill Mountains for the summer, and I went with her for 1 month, and then I went back to the city and found a job in a factory sewing negligees. But I could not handle the job more than a month because the dust from the material caused my lungs to, I was just choking. I could not handle it.
Then you got another job?
And so, in fact, I wound up in bed for a couple of months. When I recuperated, I went to work in a Barton's candy shop, which is a very fine quality chocolate. And I worked there for about a year.
And then?
During that time, I met my husband and got married soon after. And went to work in his business, which was a luncheonette, stationery, candy store combination, and worked there from 48 to 54.
When did you move to Cheyenne?
In August of 1954.
Why?
Because the city had actually taken our business. They condemned the building, gave us very little for the building and nothing for the business. And so my husband was so bitter about New York, he just wanted to get out of there.
And why did you pick Cheyenne?
And he used to pick up newspapers from all over the country. There was a place in New York where you could pick up newspapers, and he checked these various newspapers for business opportunities. And there was a business opportunity in Denver, and he corresponded with those people to the point where it sounded very promising. And he came out here to check it out. And while he was here, they were having Frontier Days over here. And the fellow that he was going to buy the business from said, let's go to Cheyenne for Frontier Days. And so he came over here, and he discovered while he was here that there was the same type of business for sale over here too, as well. And he liked this town. He saw all those people, and it was lively, and it was, he just fell in love with Cheyenne. And so he negotiated with this business to the point where he brought his father and my brother out here to check it out, and they all agreed to buy it.
And that was a vending machine business.
And that was a vending machine business.
And so you have lived in Cheyenne ever since.
We've been living in Cheyenne ever since. And Cheyenne has been very good to us.
And you have 3 sons?
We have 3 sons. The oldest one is Irving. He was born in 1950. We have middle son Barry, who was born in 1953. And our youngest son Joe was born in 1961.
And you have grandsons.
And we have 5 beautiful grandchildren.
Now, before we finish, what would you like to tell your grandchildren about your life? What would you like to say to them now?
I would like to tell them that life began again after I got married and got our 3 sons. And the blessings increased when we got our grandchildren. We are very proud of them all. Our sons are wonderful. Our grandchildren are beautiful. I feel very lucky to have such a lovely family.
Thank you very much. Now we look.
This is my husband, Eugene, whom I have been married to for 47 years. We got married July 1948, July 17th, and it's been a wonderful marriage.
I was hoping you'd say that.
And anytime.
In the center, sitting down, are my parents. My mother, Leah. My father, Israel Gantz.
When was this picture taken?
This picture was taken in 1938, just before my brother left for Israel. That's Ben Sion. Now the people in the picture, Aranka, Zoltan, Miriam, Rose, Ben Sion, myself, Helen.
Okay, next one. Okay.
This was me when I was 11 years old, taken in 1938
Where was it?
in Prague, Czechoslovakia.
Thank you.
I can do anything.
I can.
You may begin.
These are our 3 wonderful sons. Barry, the middle son. Irving, our oldest son. And Joe, our youngest son.
And where and when was this taken?
This was taken at one of our, actually it was Barry's wedding in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay.
This is our middle son, Barry, and his lovely wife, Diane, with our beautiful grandchildren. The little one is Joshua. The one next to Diane is Bradley, and there is Charlie. Taken in Las Vegas in 1994.
Okay.
This is our youngest son, Joseph, with his lovely bride, taken in March of 1994.
Where?
In Steamboat Springs, Colorado. This is our oldest son, Irving. On his wedding day, we were taking him to the chuppah. It was in Denver, Colorado.
When?
1985. 19.
It's okay. In the 80s right now.
It was 1980.
When he was married.
Yes, March of 1980.